Well, I think I'm done adding things to this bike. I may put a front carry rack on it one of these days. I haven't decided on that for sure. So I'm going to go over the options that I put on this bike in case anybody else is interested in doing the same thing to theirs. I didn't do a lot to this bike like some guys have done. I would like to have a new speedometer, that Opmid speedometer that we have seen online is really nice, but you know, $240. It's I can't remember if that was plus shipping or not, but that's a little more than I want to put into this right now. So I guess I'll hang on to this speedometer that it came with for now. Maybe someday I'll upgrade it, but I probably won't. Well, I put these bark busters on, and I mounted them on the outside of the mirrors. I could have moved the mirrors in and mounted them a little further in. They would stick a little further out to the outside, and I wouldn't have run into this problem of it, the cables not lining up with the holes, these holes in here. I think if I'd have moved it to the inside, from here to inside of there, the cables may have been able to pass through the hole out here. These also aren't the biggest ones, and we have since found the Barkbuster Storm, which is a little bit larger one like Da Vinci put on his. It still mounts in the same way. The Barkbuster Storms also have one that mounts in the bolt for the bar end weights, but unfortunately our bar end weights are not mounted permanently in there. They spin around and around. So I bought a pair of them and discovered that after I bolted them in, they just kept falling down because it spins around in here. So I wish Honda would have welded that doggone threaded insert in like all my other bikes are, but they didn't, and I can't think of any easy way to do that. So I sent them back and kept these bark busters. Anyway, I added mirror extensions so that I can see more than just my elbows in the mirrors, and they worked out pretty well. They make it stand out quite a bit farther, and I like those really well. Oh, let's see, what else did we do? Well, we put larger bar end weights on it, took off the little Honda ones, put these heavy ones off my Vespa. These were on my Vespa, and when I got the rear trunk for my Vespa, they sent even larger weights for it, so I had these laying around, and I thought they would look good. And I put on some new grips, a little bit softer, give you a little more larger grip than those factory ones, so they're pretty nice. And I put on a little clock, since Honda elected not to program our speedometers with a clock. However, if I got that new speedometer that I was just talking about, it does have a built-in clock, so I would be able to take this off. And I put in a inductance tachometer on it. I've got about 31.2 hours on the bike right now, and of course the inductance tach, the wire just wraps around your spark plug wire right there, and that's all that you need to run that. I put a ram mount on here to hold my phone, and of course, being a ram mount, you can use it to hold drink holders and all kinds of other things. Oh, let's see, going back, this is the KLR pack. It's off my KLR 650. It has a zipper around the bottom that unzips. Oh, the zipper's down here. And that zips around and expands it so that it raises up so that you can get a full face helmet in it. Got storage on both sides, a semi-hard top, and it's waterproof. I got this side rack mount from Bees Deals online, and it was made for the GV bag, And I bought it without the GV bag because you can buy the GV bag here in the United States for about half the price that they wanted for it. Unfortunately, because of the shape of it, it doesn't mount really well on the GV bag because you really need to have a horizontal line across there. So it's not really a good mount for the bag. It works. I mean, you can hook it up on there and carry stuff in it. But I added this little mount here for my gas tank. And then, of course, it's got a screw-in, little screw-in, well, what do you call it, a mount. Screws in there and locks it in. I have it off right now, but I can loosen these two bolts, swing that down out of the way, or those two nuts, I should say, and then I can go back to using it for a bag holder. So it's kind of a double duty mount, and it mounts to your side reflector, and two mounts with rubber under it up here. Unfortunately, they've got spacers in there right there, and they could be just a little bit narrower because you can't get a good tight grip on this to keep the rubbers from wanting to slide off from under there. It needs to be gripping just a little bit tighter. But you can see when I wiggle it, the mount on this side actually wiggles up and down. It's not really gripping very tight on that rubber. So I may take that spacer out and grind it off a little bit so that when I tighten that bolt down, it'll pinch it a little harder. Haven't really done anything else to the rear. I was going to take the taillight apart and see what kind of connections it was so that I could get a flashing brake light, but that's an all one-piece unit and it's wired up underneath someplace, and I took off the only 3 or 4 existing bolts that I could find on it, and I still couldn't get the darn thing off. So far, I haven't seen anybody that's taken one of those off yet, so they're a little difficult to get apart. This bike can be very hard to work on the way they built it. Not like the old ones where everything came apart easily. And I've got a real nice backrest. This is a Utopia Backrest. I took the backrest off of my Vespa, which is over here. This is a dark brown saddle, and the backrest mounts here. Here's my new larger weights for bar end weights for the Vespa because I put that trunk on the rear. So anyway, the backrest doesn't match my black seat until Bob Beckett at Utopia Backrest gets back from winter vacation. I can have him make me a black one for this. He sent me all the parts I needed to weld up the mount for this. He doesn't make a mount for it, but he sent me enough metal to make my own. So that's my idea. Got a little pinch bolt, kind of like the ones on the saddlebag mount. So that's my backrest, and that keeps me from having to have a windshield because the wind pushes back against you so hard that you get tired of holding on to the handlebars out on the highway all day. So if you've got a backrest to lean against, you won't need a windshield. I also bought a Kickstand Disabler so that I can put it in gear with the kickstand down. Don't have to go all the way to neutral each time I want to jump off the bike. But the connection to put that on is up inside of here, and I don't feel like taking all that apart. I've seen other guys take them apart, and it looks like quite a chore. So I'm not going to put that on for now. I really don't like that cable that Honda gives us for a helmet mount on this. So I have just a standard mount that you can get on, get it off there now, there it is. You can get those on eBay, Amazon, and I just leave it on there. But anyway, pop that off, put that through your D-ring, put it back on there, close the seat, and your helmet will hang from here, from the D-ring, and it'll be solidly locked in place. I haven't changed the tires yet. Still running the stock tires. I do have some Shinko 241s that I bought before I ever bought the bike. Well, after I paid my money down on the bike. And these are the 275 17s. But I don't know if I'll get around to putting them on until these others wear out. These are doing me just fine. I've done some really hard off-road riding with these, and I haven't really seen a problem except in soft sand. And I don't know that those enduro tires will be that much better in soft sand. They probably will be a little better. Anyway, that about covers all the things that I've done to this. It hasn't been a whole lot. On that bag here, I did put down a rubber mat that you can buy on Amazon. It's a dish drainer mat to keep it from scratching up the paint on these. Everything is painted and everything scratches so easily. I wish they would have stayed with chrome. The old bikes had a lot of chrome on them, and they didn't show scratches like these painted bikes do. Well, that's it for today. Let's have some fun riding now. Oh, I forgot to mention, I did put a 13-tooth front sprocket on here. It gave me a lot more power, but it messes up the ABS. I keep getting a fault on it all the time, and I wrote to the people that make that op-mid speedometer to see if the speedometer has adjustments for that, and they said no. If you have ABS, you have to buy one of those aftermarket compensators. And so I haven't done that yet, so I put my 14-tooth back on again until I get my hands on a compensator, and maybe I'll upgrade the speedometer at the same time. But if you're going to put a 13-tooth or put a larger rear sprocket on it, it makes no difference which end you change. It's going to screw up your ABS, and you're going to get faults on it all the time. So only seems to fault when I'm highway riding. When I'm off-road riding, I think the rear tire spins once in a while, and that compensates for it. But out on the highway, every 10 miles, the fault would come on. I'd have to turn the key off and back on again to reset it. So that's the problem with these electronic bikes. It's hard to change anything on it because the computers look for it to be the same all the time, like it came from the factory. And if you change something, it messes up the computers on something. Oh, if you're wondering about my chain lube, see, it's kind of a whitish, bluish looking chain on this. It's because the chain lube that I use is the Bel-Ray chain lubricant, and it's a wax-based, I believe, but it won't fling off, and provides protection against rust and corrosion and wear. Won't attract dirt. And everything else I've tried, and I've used this for 20 years, but everything else I've tried, or if I run out and I can't find any locally, I've tried a lot of different things. One of the highest rated ones in the forums has always been this Dupont chain saver. It's a wax-based one, but it's got Teflon in it, and it's very thin. It goes on like a thin oil, but then it dries, and it doesn't stay on very well. In a few weeks and 100 miles, the chain actually starts getting rusty looking, and it looks very dry. The last thing I got when I couldn't get Bel-Ray was Amsoil's chain lube, and that's a good sticky chain lube. It says it does not fling off, and it doesn't fling off bad. It does a little bit, but it's very sticky, and it's greasy, and it gets all over your gears and your wheel, and it looks awful, and it really picks up the sand. It holds sand on there, and it turns your chain into sandpaper. So I got my hands on some more Bel-Ray on Amazon, and got that back again. So now I'm back to running a nice, clean, dry chain. It's you can feel just a little bit of wax on it, but it stays on really well, and it runs dry, and it doesn't pick up dirt. So if you want to try a good chain lube and you're tired of cleaning chains all the time and cleaning the grease off your wheels, try the Bell Ray. You might like it. And of course, I knew I would forget something. One of the first, well, actually, the very first thing I did to this bike was I put what's called a gold plug on the bottom of this. It's a magnetic plug. I did that as soon as I got the bike home, and I laid it on a rug on its side, and I changed that plug out so that I could start checking the metal picked up in there right from the very beginning. And in 20 miles, that thing was full. Anyway, that was my very first modification to the bike, and I just about forgot all about showing that one on here. The only other thing that I have planned and haven't gotten done yet is I'm going to put a modulating headlight on there, like my other bikes have. See if I can get one to turn on in here. There's what a modulating headlight does. It causes the look of movement when you're coming down the road. It's not a flashing headlight. It don't go completely off. It just modulates the intensity of it. And it really gives you visibility coming down the road, much better than just a headlight that's on all the time. And so I'm working with Kickstand technology right now as we try to come up with a proper plug-in replacement that goes on this bike. It's got a very odd plug-in on the behind the headlight, and they sent me one to try. Their supplier thought that was the right plug-in, but it wasn't, and right now they're still trying to find a supplier for the correct plug-in. Honda is using a very unique, one-of-a-kind type of plug-in on this bike for the headlight, and maybe they have the same one for the other mini bikes, the Grom and the Monkey and the Super Cub. I don't know if they all use the same one. They probably do, but Kickstand Technologies has not tried to make a modulator for any of them before, so I was the first one to ask for it, and I've helped them develop modulators and test modulators for bikes that never had them before. So they're sending me stuff as they get it so I can keep trying it out to see if we can get a modulating headlight on this. And so that will be one more upgrade that I'll show off when and if we ever find the right plug-in for it. I also added handlebar risers that I forgot to mention earlier. I got those on Amazon. These are the 30mm size. You have plenty of wire loom on here. Once you loosen these little tie wraps here. These are the Kemimoto. But you could go 35 or 40 millimeters on the handlebar risers. This was actually one of the best things I've done to the bike. I can stand up and ride it when I'm going over really rough ground, and the handlebars are at the right height for sitting down too. I don't know if I would like the 35 or 40s when I'm sitting down. They'd be great when standing up, but I know you can go at least 40 on this, and maybe even the 45s. Okay, signing off now. Bye-bye.